The Galactic Military Academy of Verith Prime was considered the most prestigious institution in the known universe. Its gleaming spires rose from the planet's crystalline surface like monuments to order, discipline, and the accumulated wisdom of 1,000 civilizations. For over 12,000 standard years, the Academy had trained the finest warriors, strategists, and peacekeepers the Galactic Confederacy had ever known. Species from across 300 star systems sent their most exceptional offspring to walk these hallowed halls. The Velith, tall and graceful with their bioluminescent skin, had dominated the tactical divisions for centuries. The Krath, massive stone-skinned beings whose ancestors had evolved on a high-gravity world, filled the heavy combat brigades. The Cylon, with their telepathic abilities and for delicate arms, excelled in communications and intelligence operations. Every species had their place. Every species had their strength. And then there were the humans. Earth had only joined the Galactic Confederacy 17 years prior, barely a heartbeat in the cosmic timeline. The first human cadet had been admitted to the Academy just 8 years ago, and even now, their presence remained something of a curiosity, a novelty, perhaps even a charity case, some whispered, a gesture of goodwill to the newest and smallest member of the Confederacy. But mostly, humans were simply ignored. Which suited Cadet Elena Vasquez just fine. She sat in the back corner of Lecture Hall 17, her dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun, her grey cadet uniform crisp and unremarkable. Around her, 300 students from 40 different species chatted, argued, and displayed their various biological gifts. A young Velith male across the aisle was literally glowing with excitement as he discussed the upcoming examinations with his companion. Two Krath cadets compared the density of their stone-like skin, betting on who could withstand more pressure. Elena simply watched. She had learned early in her academy career that the best survival strategy was invisibility. Don't stand out. Don't draw attention. Don't give them reasons to remember you existed. It had worked, mostly. Attention, cadets. The voice boomed across the lecture hall, and 300 bodies immediately straightened. Senior Instructor Velthorn strode to the central podium, his Velith form shifting through soft shades of authoritative crimson. Behind him, a holographic display flickered to life, showing a rotating image of a planet shrouded in toxic green clouds. Your third-year evaluation will not take place on Verith Prime, Velthorn announced. This cycle, the Confederacy Command has authorized something different. Something that will truly test your capabilities as future officers of the Galactic Fleet. The image zoomed in, showing churning storms, volcanic eruptions, and what appeared to be creatures with far too many teeth. You will be deployed to Carnath 7, a category for Deathworld. A murmur rippled through the assembled cadets. Elena felt her stomach tighten, but her face remained impassive. For those unfamiliar, Velthorn continued. Carnath 7 represents one of the most hostile environments in the known galaxy. Extreme temperatures, toxic atmosphere, aggressive megafauna, unpredictable geological activity. The survival rate for unprepared organic life is approximately 4% over a standard day cycle. The murmuring grew louder. Several Cylon cadets had gone pale, their normally translucent skin becoming almost completely transparent with anxiety. You will be divided into units of 8. Each unit will be deployed to a different region of the planet with standard survival equipment. Your objective is simple. Survive for 3 standard days and signal for extraction. Those who succeed will advance to their 4th year. Those who fail. Velthorn didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Unit assignments have been posted to your personal terminals. Report to the transport bay at 0600 tomorrow. Dismissed. As cadets began filing out, their conversations buzzing with nervous energy, Elena remained seated. She pulled out her terminal and accessed the unit assignments, scrolling until she found her name. Unit 17. She read the other names. 6 Velith cadets from the upper social tiers. 1 Krath heavy weapons specialist, and her 7 members of established, respected species, who had centuries of academy tradition behind them, and 1 human. Elena closed her terminal and took a slow breath. She'd survived 2.5 years at the academy by staying invisible, staying quiet, staying out of the way. She had the 3rd highest academic scores in her class. But no one knew, because she'd learned to deflect attention whenever possible. Now she was about to be trapped on a Deathworld with 7 cadets who likely saw her as dead weight at best. This was going to be interesting. The transport ship hummed as it descended through Carnath 7's atmosphere. And Unit 17 sat in uncomfortable silence. Outside the viewport, lightning storms painted the sky in shades of toxic green and arterial purple. Cadet Velkrin, the apparent leader of the Velith contingent, had positioned himself at the center of the group. His skin pulsed with confident gold, the Velith color of assumed authority. He'd spent the first hour of the journey outlining his tactical plan, which primarily consisted of the Velith taking turns on watch duty while Thorak, the Krath, stood guard. Alina had not been assigned any role. The human should remain at the center of our formation, Velkrin had said dismissively when another cadet had asked. She's the most vulnerable. If predators attack, she at least serve as a distraction. The other Velith had laughed, their skin flickering with amusement colors. Thorok had said nothing, his rocky face unreadable. Alina had also said nothing. She'd learned. Now as the transport prepared to land, she quietly checked her standard survival pack one more time. Water purification tablets. Emergency rations designed for Velith metabolism, she noted with a sigh. A multi-purpose tool. A basic medical kit. A signal beacon for extraction. Standard equipment for standard cadets. The transport touched down with a shudder, and the rear hatch began to open. Immediately, a wave of heat and sulfur-tinged air washed over them. Elena's lungs burned slightly, but she controlled her breathing, forcing herself to adapt. Atmosphere is within tolerable limits for Velith physiology, Velkrin announced, checking his scanner. Krath tolerance is higher. Human tolerance. He glanced at Alina with poorly concealed contempt. We'll find out, I suppose. They stepped onto the surface of Carnath 7, and Alina immediately understood why it was classified as a category for Deathworld. The ground beneath their feet was a mixture of volcanic rock and some kind of biological material, possibly the remains of creatures that had unsurvived. Steam vents dotted the landscape, erupting at irregular intervals with bursts of superheated gas. In the distance, what appeared to be a forest rose against the green-tinged sky, but the trees were wrong somehow, their branches too angular there, surfaces glistening with what might have been moisture or might have been something far more sinister. And the sounds. Alina had studied Carnath 7's fauna in her academy research. She knew that most creatures on this world had evolved to be apex predators, caught in an endless arms race of tooth and claw and venom. What she hadn't been prepared for was the constant auditory backdrop of that evolutionary war. Distant roars, shrieking calls, the wet sound of large things moving through the underbrush. We should find shelter, she said quietly. It was the first time she'd spoken since the journey began. Velkrin's skin flickered with irritation. The human has an opinion. How quaint. He turned to address the group. We will proceed to the coordinates marked on our scanners. There's a cave system approximately 2 kilometers northeast. We'll establish a base camp there, and the caves will be occupied, Alina interrupted. 7 pairs of eyesore in Thorak's case, to deep-set crystalline sensors, turned to look at her. I beg your pardon. Velkrin's skin had shifted to a dangerous shade of orange. Carnath 7's megafauna are primarily nocturnal, Alina said, keeping her voice calm. During daylight hours, they shelter in caves and underground formations. If we enter those caves, we'll be walking into their homes, their dens, with their young. And how would you know this? One of the other Velith cadets demanded. I read the Academy's xenobiology archives, all 17 volumes on Carnath 7's ecosystem. There was a moment of silence. That information is not required reading for this examination, Velkrin said stiffly. No, Alina agreed. It isn't. The Velith cadets exchanged glances, their colors shifting through various shades of embarrassment and annoyance. Finally, Velkrin's skin settled into a determined crimson. We proceed to the caves. Whatever is inside, we will handle it. That is what we have been trained for. He looked at Alina, his expression cold. You may remain outside if you're too frightened, though I cannot guarantee your survival. Alina said nothing. She simply fell into position at the back of the group as they began their march. As they walked, she quietly noted the terrain, the wind patterns, the position of the distant sun, and the subtle signs of wildlife activity that the others were missing. A broken branch here, a claw mark there. The way certain patches of ground seemed slightly too smooth, too undisturbed. She didn't say anything. They wouldn't listen anyway. The march took 2 hours, and by the time they reached the cave entrance, 3 of the Valith cadets were showing signs of heat exhaustion. Their bioluminescent skin had gone dim and patchy, their movements sluggish. The atmosphere on Cadet 7 was not quite right for their species, slightly too much sulfur, slightly too much heat. Thorak seemed unaffected, his stone-like body designed for hostile conditions. Alina was sweating heavily, but she'd been pacing herself, conserving energy while the others had rushed ahead. The cave entrance was larger than the scanners had suggested, a yawning mouth in the rock face easily 30 meters wide. From within, Alina could hear something, a low rhythmic vibration, almost like breathing. "We proceed in formation," Velkrin ordered Thorak at the front, Velith cadets in the middle, the human at the rear. "Velkrin," Alina said, "I really think we should. Did I ask for your input?" The Velith cadet's skin flashed angry red. "You are here because the Academy mandated that every species have representation. You are not here because you have value. You are not here because you have skills. You are here because of politics. Now, unless you wish to be reported for insubordination, you will do as you are told." Alina met his gaze for a long moment. Then she nodded once and moved to the back of the formation. They entered the cave. The interior was dark, lit only by the faint glow of bioluminescent fungi on the walls and the pale light that filtered from the entrance behind them. The air was cooler here, but thick with a musky, organic smell that made Alina's threat instincts scream. They had traveled perhaps 50 meters when Thorak stopped. Something ahead, the Krath rumbled. His voice sounded like stones grinding together. Large, moving Velkrin drew his standard-issue stun baton. The others followed suit. Alina reached for her own baton, but didn't activate it. The light would only make them more visible. For a moment, there was silence. Then the ground shook. "Formation!" Velkrin screamed, but it was too late. From the darkness ahead came something massive, a creature, like a nightmare given physical form. 6 legs, each ending in curved claws the length of Alina's forearm. A body covered in armored plates that gleamed in the faint light. And a mouth filled with rows of teeth, designed for one purpose: to kill. It was a Carnath stalker. Alina had read about them. Apex predators. Fiercely territorial, especially when defending a nest. The creature roared, and the sound was so loud that 2 of the Velith cadets dropped their weapons to cover their ears. Their bioluminescence flickered wildly, broadcasting their fear in visible light. Thorak charged forward, brave and foolish, his massive fists raised. The stalker swatted him aside like a toy, sending the stone-skinned Krath crashing into the cave wall with a sickening crack. "Retreat!" Velkrin shouted, and the remaining Velith turned and ran. Alina didn't run. She watched the creature, watched its movements, watched its eyes track the fleeing cadets. It was about to give chase. If it caught them in the narrow cave entrance, it would kill them all. She had a choice. Stay invisible, stay quiet, let them face the consequences of ignoring her warnings. Or Alina activated her stun baton and hurled it at the creature's face. The flash of light caught the stalker's attention, and those predator eyes locked onto her instead. 8 tons of killing machine focused entirely on one small human female. Alina turned and ran, but not toward the exit. She ran deeper into the cave, away from the others, drawing the creature after her. Behind her, she could hear the thunder of its pursuit. Alina ran through absolute darkness. The stun baton had been her only light source, and she'd sacrificed it to save cadets who despised her. Now she was blind, relying only on her other senses, the sound of her own footsteps echoing off the walls, the feel of the stone beneath her boots, the hot breath of the creature behind her. Her lungs burned, her muscles screamed. The atmosphere of Cadet 7 was already taxing her physiology, and now she was sprinting through a cave with a monster on her heels. Any rational being would have given up. Any sensible creature would have accepted that this was the end. But Alina Vasquez was human. And humans, as it turned out, were not particularly rational. She ran. The tunnel twisted and narrowed, and she could hear the stalker's frustrated roar as its massive body scraped against the walls. It was too big for this passage. She was gaining ground. Ahead, she saw a faint glow, more bioluminescent fungi, enough light to navigate by. She pushed harder, her vision narrowing to a single point of focus: survival. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, and Alina skidded to a halt, her heart pounding. She was not alone. Scattered across the chamber floor were eggs. Hundreds of them, each one about the size of her torso, each one pulsing with faint inner light. And between the eggs, moving with deadly grace, were 3 more stalkers. Smaller than the one behind her. Juveniles perhaps, or a different subspecies, but no less dangerous. They had heard her. They were turning toward her. Elena's mind raced through options. Fight impossible. She had no weapons. Flee back into the jaws of the larger stalker. Hide nowhere to hide. But there was one option that no academy manual would ever suggest. One option that only a human would even consider. She slowly, deliberately, knelt down. The movement caught the juvenile's attention. They approached cautiously, their heads tilting in that universal predator gesture of curiosity. "Hey," Alina said softly. "Hey there. I'm not here to hurt your eggs. I'm not a threat, I'm just passing through." The creatures didn't understand her words, of course. But something in her tone, her posture, her deliberate vulnerability, it made them hesitate. Alina had studied Carnath 7's fauna. She knew that most of the planet's predators had evolved not just for combat, but for communication. They needed to signal threat levels to each other, to establish territories without constant lethal conflict. And one of the most powerful signals in any evolutionary system was submission. She lowered her head, exposing the back of her neck, the most vulnerable spot on a human body. She made herself as small as possible, her breathing slow and steady despite her terror. One of the juveniles crept closer. She could feel its breath on her skin, hot and rank with the smell of old meat. Its jaws were centimeters from her skull. If she had miscalculated, she would be dead in seconds. The moment stretched into eternity. Then the juvenile made a sound, a low, rumbling vibration that seemed to resonate through her bones. It was answered by the others. And then, slowly, they turned away. Alina stayed still for another full minute, waiting until the juveniles had moved to the far side of the chamber, until she was certain they had lost interest in her. Then she began to move again, carefully, so carefully, picking her way between the eggs, toward another tunnel on the far side of the chamber. Behind her, she could still hear the larger stalker crashing through the cave system, searching for its prey. But it wouldn't find her, not here, not among its own young, because Alina had done something that no Velith, no Krath, no other species at the Academy would have even considered. She had made herself small. She had made herself vulnerable. She had trusted that even monsters could recognize someone who wasn't a threat. It was a profoundly human thing to do. And it had saved her life. The sun was setting on Carnath 7 when Alina emerged from the cave system, 2 kilometers from where they had entered. She was exhausted, dehydrated, covered in various biological substances she didn't want to identify, and deeply relieved to see open sky again. But she had no time to rest. The others were still out there, and night was coming. She remembered from her research that Carnath 7's nocturnal predators were even more dangerous than its daytime fauna. The darkness would bring new horrors, creatures that had evolved to hunt without light, to sense prey through vibration and heat and electromagnetic signatures. The Velith cadets wouldn't survive the night alone. Their bioluminescence would make them visible targets. Their heat signatures were all wrong for this environment. Their academy training had prepared them for controlled combat scenarios, not genuine wilderness survival. Alina checked the position of the setting sun and began to move. She found them an hour later, huddled in a shallow ravine. Their lights dimmed, but still visible against the darkening landscape. Velkrin was pacing back and forth, his skin flickering through a rainbow of anxiety colors. Thurok was sitting against a rock, his arm hanging at an unnatural angle, broken, Alina realized, from the stalker's blow. "We have to move," Alina said as she approached. The reaction was immediate. 7 beings turned toward her voice, and for a moment, their expressions showed something she hadn't seen directed at her before: shock, confusion, and perhaps a hint of relief. "You're alive," Velcrin said. His tone was oddly flat, as if he couldn't quite process the information. "I'm alive, and we have about 30 minutes before the night hunters come out. We need to move, now." "Move where?" one of the other Veleth demanded. "We've tried 3 different shelter locations. All occupied. The caves were a disaster. We have no functioning navigation, no supplies." "I know where we can go," Alina interrupted. "But you have to trust me." Silence. Velcrin's skin shifted through several colors before settling on something that might have been humility, at least resignation. "You survived the cave. You led that creature away from us. He trailed off, apparently unable to complete the sentence. "There's a thermal vent field about 4 kilometers west," Alina said. "The steam and heat interfere with most predators' sensory systems. It's not comfortable, but it's survivable. If we move fast, we can reach it before full dark." 4 kilometers, Thorak's voice was strained. "With my arm, I'll help you walk," Alina said. "We'll rotate support duty, but we have to move now." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Velcrin nodded. "Lead the way." The journey was brutal. Thorak's broken arm slowed their pace significantly, and the Veleth cadets were already exhausted from their earlier panic. Alina pushed them forward, keeping their spirits up with quiet encouragement, pointing out safe paths through the treacherous terrain, warning them of dangers before they became fatal. The night came quickly on Carnath 7, the green sky fading to a toxic purple, and then to absolute black. The stars were hidden behind the planet's perpetual cloud cover, and the only light came from the distant glow of volcanic activity on the horizon. And the hunters began to emerge. Alina heard them first, the skittering of clawed feet on rock, the hissing calls as they communicated in the darkness. She couldn't see them, but she could feel their presence, circling at the edge of perception, testing for weakness. "Keep moving," she whispered. "Don't run. Don't make sudden movements. They're looking for panic. We don't give them panic." "How do you know this?" one of the Veleth cadets asked, her voice trembling. "Because that's what I would do," Alina replied. "If I were a predator, I'd look for the easiest prey. The ones who are scared. The ones who are running. We're not easy, we're not scared, we're just walking." Nothing interesting about walking. It was a lie, of course. Alina was terrified. Every nerve in her body was screaming at her to run, to hide, to do something other than calmly march through a nightmare landscape full of creatures that wanted to eat her. But fear was a tool. Humans had learned that long ago. You couldn't eliminate fear, it was part of survival. But you could control it. You could use it to sharpen your senses, to fuel your muscles, to keep you alert when every instinct said to give up. Alina kept walking, and slowly, reluctantly, the others followed. They reached the thermal vents just as the first attack came. One of the night hunters, a creature that seemed to be composed entirely of teeth, and speed lunged from the darkness, its jaws aimed at the smallest Veleth cadet. There was no time to think, no time to plan. Alina moved. She put herself between the creature and its prey, her empty hands raised in what she knew was a futile gesture. The hunter's jaws closed on her forearm, and pain exploded through her nervous system, bright, consuming, absolute. But Alina didn't fall. She grabbed the creature's head with her free hand and shoved her thumb into its eye socket. The hunter screamed a sound that split the night hand, released her arm to thrash away into the darkness. Alina fell to her knees, blood pouring from the wounds in her forearm, her vision blurring with shock. "Into the vents," she shouted. Now, the others scrambled forward into the steam field, the heat and chemical vapors immediately wrapping around them like a toxic blanket. Alina stumbled after them, one hand pressed against her bleeding arm, her body running on nothing but adrenaline and sheer stubborn refusal to die. They found a sheltered pocket between 2 major vents, where the steam was thick enough to hide them, but the ground was stable enough to rest. Alina collapsed against the rock, her breathing ragged, her wounded arm throbbing with every heartbeat. "Let me see that." Velcrin knelt beside her, his skin showing colors she'd never seen before, something between fear and admiration. He pulled out his medical kit and began treating her wounds with surprisingly gentle hands. "Why did you do that?" he asked quietly. Elena looked at him through pain-hazed eyes. "Do what? Save Merith. You could have let the hunter take her. You could have run." "No," Elena said. "I couldn't have. But why? She's been nothing but cruel to you. We all have. We've mocked you, ignored you, treated you as less than." "I know. Then why risk your life for her?" Elena was quiet for a long moment, focusing on her breathing, trying to manage the pain. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but steady. "Because that's what humans do." Velkrin stared at her, his colors shifting through something that might have been shame. "I don't understand. My planet," Elena said slowly, "is a Category 12 Deathworld, the most extreme classification in the Confederacy's system." The other cadets had gone silent, listening. "Earth. That's what we call our home. It has temperatures that range from -60 to +50 degrees Celsius. It has storms that can level cities. It has earthquakes that reshape entire landscapes. It has diseases that can kill billions. It has predators in every ocean, every forest, every grassland. We evolved there, we survived there, and we did it together." She paused, gathering her strength. "Do you know why humans survived our death world when so many other species never made it to the stars? It wasn't because we were the strongest, or the fastest, or the smartest. It was because we learned to take care of each other. When one of us fell, the others carried them. When one of us was sick, the others healed them. When one of us was threatened, the others fought for them." She looked at Velkrin, then at each of the other cadets in turn. "That's what it means to be human. We survive together, or we don't survive at all. It doesn't matter if you're kind to us or cruel to us. It doesn't matter if you respect us or despise us. If you're in danger and we can help, we help. That's just who we are." The steam swirled around them, thick and warm. In the distance, the night hunters circled, frustrated by the chemical interference, unable to locate their prey. And in that moment, 7 cadets from the most prestigious species in the Galactic Confederacy looked at the wounded human in their midst and saw something they had never expected. Strength, true strength, not the strength of muscles or weapons or genetic gifts. The strength of character, the strength of compassion. The strength of a species that had crawled out of a death world not by conquering their environment, but by refusing to leave anyone behind. Dawn came slowly to Carneth 7, the toxic green light filtering through the clouds like a reluctant promise. The night hunters had retreated with the darkness, and the thermal vent field fell silent, except for the constant hiss of steam. Elena woke to find Velkrin watching her. "You have a fever," he said. "The creature that bit you, its saliva contained toxins. Your body is fighting the infection." Elena nodded, unsurprised. "How long until extraction?" 18 standard hours. She did the math. They needed to survive another full day on Carnath 7, and she was wounded and feverish. Their supplies were nearly gone. The other cadets were exhausted. "We need water," she said. "The thermal vents will have condensation pools nearby. Not clean, but I can rig a filtration system from the medical kit supplies. And we need food or, at least something to maintain energy. The lichen on the rocks over there is probably edible, but I'll need to test it first." Velkrin blinked. "How do you know all of this?" "Survival training. It's standard curriculum on Earth. Every human learns basic wilderness survival before the age of 12. Before the age of 12, our childhood's up different than yours, I imagine." For the next several hours, Elena directed the group's survival efforts, despite her fever. She showed Thorek how to brace his broken arm more effectively. She taught the Velith cadets how to ration their water intake for maximum efficiency. She identified edible local plants and warned them away from several that looked harmless, but would have caused severe digestive distress. And throughout it all, she kept moving. "You should rest," Merith the cadet, whose life Elena had saved, said at one point. "You're injured, you're sick. Why do you keep pushing yourself?" Elena smiled weakly. "Because stopping is dying. That's something else humans learn young." The second night was worse. Elena's fever spiked, and for several hours, she drifted in and out of consciousness. She dreamed of Earth, of blue skies and green forests, of her family's small home on the edge of a mountain range, of her mother teaching her to build a fire, her father showing her how to read the stars. She dreamed of the academy, of 3 years of quiet isolation, of eating alone in the mess hall, of studying in empty library corners, of enduring small cruelties without complaint. She dreamed of the moment she had received her admission letter, of her mother crying with joy, of her father's proud hand on her shoulder. "You're going to show them," he had said. "You're going to show them what humans can do." Alina woke with tears on her cheeks and Velkrin's concerned face hovering above her. "You were talking in your sleep," he said. "In your native language. I didn't understand the words, but they sounded important." "My father," Alina whispered. "He told me to show the galaxy what humans can do." "I think you have," Velkrin said quietly. "I think you have." Extraction came precisely on schedule, a Confederacy transport descending through Carnath 7's atmosphere with military precision. As the cadets of Unit 17 staggered aboard, they were met by Senior Instructor Velthorn and a medical team. Velthorn's skin flickered with surprise as he counted heads. "All 8 survivors. From a category for Deathworld deployment, yes," Senior Instructor Velkrin said. He glanced at Alina, who was being supported by Thorok on one side and Merith on the other. "All 8 thanks to Cadet Vasquez." Velthorn's gaze settled on Alina, her bandaged arm, her fever-flushed face, her blood-stained uniform. "Cadet Vasquez, the human, yes sir, explain." What followed was the most surreal experience of Alina's academy career. She stood, barely as Velkrin, then Thorok, then each of the Velith cadets took turns describing what had happened. The cave, the stalker. Alina leading the creature away, her return to guide them to safety. The night hunters, her sacrifice to protect Merith. The long hours of survival instruction that had kept them alive. When they finished, Velthorn was silent for a long moment. "Cadet Vasquez," he finally said. "Do you have anything to add?" Alina thought about it. She thought about all the things she could say about the months of isolation, the casual cruelty, the way she had been treated as less than nothing by beings who considered themselves her betters. But that wasn't who she was. That wasn't what humans did. "Just that I'm glad everyone made it," she said. "That's all that matters." Velthorn studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, his skin shifted to a color that Alina had never seen him display before, deep, pure blue that she later learned was the Valith expression of profound respect. "The human has passed the examination," he announced. With distinction, the story of Unit 17 spread quickly through the academy. At first, it was whispered in dormitory rooms and mess halls, a tale of the quiet human cadet who had saved 7 lives on a Deathworld. Then it made it into the official academy records, where Instructor Velthorn's detailed report praised Cadet Vasquez's exceptional situational awareness, crisis leadership, and selfless dedication to unit cohesion. Then it went further. The Galactic Confederacy had thousands of worlds, thousands of species, thousands of military academies and training programs. But the story of one human cadet on Carnath 7 seemed to resonate in ways that surprised everyone. Other species began to ask questions. What was Earth really like? How did humans survive their Deathworld? What other capabilities did this small new species possess that had been overlooked? And the answers were revealing. Humans could run, not just sprint, like most predators, but run for hours and hours without stopping, a form of pursuit hunting that had allowed their ancestors to chase prey across vast distances until it collapsed from exhaustion. Humans could heal. Their bodies could repair broken bones, regenerate damaged tissue, and fight off infections that would kill most other species. Humans could adapt. They lived in every climate on their planet, from frozen tundras to burning deserts, from high mountains to ocean depths. They made homes in places that should have been uninhabitable, and humans could care, not just for their own kind, but for anyone and anything that entered their sphere of compassion. They adopted creatures from other species as family members. They mourned the deaths of beings they had never met. They risked their lives for strangers, simply because it felt like the right thing to do. The Confederacy had known that Earth was a Deathworld. They had known that humans were tough and adaptable and surprisingly clever. What they hadn't known, what they were only now beginning to understand, was that humans were also kind, compassionate, loyal to a fault, willing to sacrifice themselves for others without hesitation or expectation of reward. It changed how the galaxy saw humanity. And it changed how Cadet Elena Vasquez saw herself. She graduated from the academy 2 years later, at the top of her class. Velcrin was there, his skin displaying the bright gold of pride as he watched his former teammate receive her commission. Thorok was there, his stone-skinned face showing as close to a smile as his species could manage. Merith was there, tears streaming down her translucent face. After the ceremony, Elena's father embraced her. "You did it," he whispered. "You showed them." Elena looked out at the gathered crowd, hundreds of beings from dozens of species, all of them looking at her with respect, admiration, and something that might have been awe. "No," she said softly. "I just showed them who we already were." Years later, when Elena Vasquez had risen to become one of the most decorated officers in the Confederacy fleet, she would often be asked to speak at the academy. Cadets from across the galaxy would pack the lecture halls to hear her stories, to learn from her wisdom, to understand what it meant to be part of a universe that now saw humanity in a completely different light. And at the end of every lecture, she would tell them the same thing. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. It's full of creatures that are stronger than you, faster than you, smarter than you in their own ways. You will face challenges that seem impossible. You will encounter beings who underestimate you, dismiss you, or wish you harm. But remember this, you are never truly alone. Somewhere out there, someone is counting on you. Someone needs your help. Someone is hoping that when the darkness comes, you'll be the one who refuses to give up. And when that moment comes, when everything seems lost, and the only sensible thing to do is quit, don't keep going, keep fighting, keep caring, because that's what it means to be human. And the galaxy is only just beginning to understand how extraordinary that truly is. In the great halls of the Galactic Confederacy, the story of the quiet human cadet was carved into the walls of remembrance. Not as a tale of strength or strategy or superior genetics, but as something far more valuable. A reminder that true power comes not from what you can destroy, but from what you choose to protect. A lesson that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else matters more. A testament to a species that crawled out of a death world, not by conquering their planet, but by refusing to leave each other behind. And for the first time, the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human. If this story moved you, subscribe for more human stories from the stars. The universe is vast, and there are infinite tales yet to be told of courage in the darkness, of compassion in the void, of the incredible beings who call a small blue death world their home. Until next time, remember, the stars are watching. Make them proud.